So this is Ant Lyons, editor of Your Property Network magazine, and we are on a group call this morning with some good friends of mine and fellow investors in one particular city which we're going to be discussing this morning. And we quite often have some technical challenges with doing these group discussions, so if anyone is watching this or listening to this and hearing us fade in and fade out or disappear for a bit, then please bear with us. It's not always our strong point. We're property investors, not IT geeks. So, let's introduce everybody. Obviously, my name's Ant. I'm editor of Your Property Network. I have a portfolio of properties in the West Country, and I have a few of those down in Plymouth, which is where I went to university what seems like 100 years ago, and was actually, I'm saddened to admit, 15 years ago that I left. So, in 98. So, Jane, we have you on the call again today. Now, you don't have any properties in Plymouth, but you're going to be quizzing us about the city because you help us create these articles, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I was actually doing some research that's on Plymouth, and it looks absolutely fascinating. I'm about to pack up and move down there.
Okay, well, maybe you should wait till the end of the call because we're going to be honest about the place. Christina's looking slightly less sure of that as a policy. Chrissy, you and I are sort of old friends, really, aren't we? And you are my very, very glamorous builder. And you've done a few refurb projects for me in Plymouth and in other places as well. And you've got a portfolio of properties and have had for a while in Plymouth, haven't you?
Yes, I have, yeah. Actually, that's where my property journey started, really, in Plymouth. I bought my first property actually in Plymouth in 1990. And it was a completely different, ball game then. Sort of no buy-to-let mortgages and all the rest of it. So you kind of just sort of got on with it, But we bought that property, and we actually split that into 3 flats. And to this day we've got it, and it works very well for us. Since then, obviously, bought other stuff in Plymouth as well as other parts of the country. And I guess my property journey, when I first bought the property, I was still working full-time as an accountant at PwC, and then 10 years later, having sort of built up a reasonable portfolio, left and have been doing this full-time. So it's good. When you say, Jane, it's very exciting down there in Plymouth, it is, but I think it's slightly changing for the student market, certainly. And it's slightly different profiles now, but it's still interesting, and there are still deals to be had in terms of flipping, letting, all sorts. I don't know whether you agree with me, Stuart.
Yes, I do. It's interesting down in Plymouth, definitely. I think the student market, like you said, is changing quite a bit. There's a lot of bigger developments that are springing up. There's obviously the big one on the Hoe, and under the university you've got planning for a lot more rooms on the campus as well, which I believe they're going to get underway building very soon as well. So I think the student landlords, which I don't do, I think they're going to have to be on top of their game if they want to keep their properties fully let.
Yeah, I was only there last week, and I couldn't believe how many. And very close to the university, how many student houses to let signs there were. So there's still obviously not they haven't filled them yet. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm sorry. I think you're right there. I also run a letting agency in Plymouth as well, and we picked up a number of landlords last year who hadn't filled their properties up, mainly because the properties were tired. And I've already had one landlord as well in Mutley who's switched over to professional lets, and I'm pretty sure we're going to pick up a few more to do the same.
That's what I'm doing. I've got.
Can I pick up on that actually? Because I'm interested in that. I've looked at student properties in Plymouth a lot and come to the same conclusion that there's a huge oversupply. Really, loads of mum and dad investors that came in, bought up properties, and unless you're in kind of Mutley area, then there's a good chance it may not be let. And I wondered what the opportunities are for taking those quite grand buildings, quite large, I guess, Victorian terraces or end terraces or whatever, and renting on a room-by-room basis to other markets in Plymouth? Because I don't know, you guys know the city better than I. Is there the employment there to support a sort of professional room share market?
I think I wouldn't go as far as professional. Half the time, you get a lot of working people. I would class them as not always professionals. But then again, a lot of from my experience, a lot of the younger people don't have as much money as they used to have, and are choosing to rent single lets instead of one-bedroom flats. I find it a lot more difficult to shift to one-bedroom flat these days than I do anything else.
Okay,
I've noticed that.
Go on, Chrissy.
Sorry. I've noticed I actually, one of my properties is still the PL4 area, but slightly out. So, because, students are typically lazy, they only want to walk 5-10 minutes from to be 5-10 minutes from university. This is 15, and the extra 5 is just too much for them. So, but I mean, I rented that one to students for the last 12, 13 years, and this is the first year that I've not been able to. So what I've done is I've actually put ads on Spare Rooms and Gumtree, and for professional lets, and actually got a company calling me saying that they were looking for a corporate let because they've got electrical engineers coming in to do a particular project for X number of months, and would I consider short-term lets? And although that's not my business, I thought, well, what the hell, why not? I've got to, I want to cover my mortgage, I want to sort of get people in, and it might be an opportunity, a different opportunity, going somewhere, in a slightly different direction, whereby, that might actually work for me. So, that's only literally happened in the last couple of days, so it's very early days yet. But, if that doesn't happen, then I'm certainly going to go, like you say, the professional working, route, because possibly the student market in that particular area where my house is not going to work. And actually, I was talking to a landlord there who's got, he's quite big there. He's got over, I think, 200, 300 student rooms. And I think he himself is actually going to possibly partner with, one of the big boys. Actually, I'm getting really bad feedback. Anyway,
okay. We'll see if it sorts itself out in a minute, Chrissy.
Okay, and he's actually decided that he's actually going to be one of the big boys and actually start building, the student accommodation approved by Plymouth University, which is interesting. So he himself, even with, he's fully let this year, but he's obviously clearly worried, and going a different tack. He's probably sort of doing the if you can't beat him, join him, kind of scenario.
Yeah, it's
actually sounds like a very wise. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting. It's really interesting times down there at the moment. I think that you've got electrical engineers in your houses because they're doing a lot of development, aren't they? They're spending quite a lot of money in various areas, and I was surprised. I only go down kind of maybe twice a year. One of the times to stay in Christine's absolutely fabulous holiday house sometimes, and I'm always amazed at how much money they've spent on the Barbican, on the sort of Stonehouse area development, and all over the place money seems to be going. And so there's maybe an opportunity there, but definitely the student landlords who are going to be most affected are those who are not adapting or not offering premium properties to the market. Do you think, Stuart? What do you think?
Yes, definitely premium.
Yeah. It's interesting actually because there's other student landlords in other areas have begun to be a bit nervous about what's going on with regard to the numbers of students. And I think, sorry, I lost the call for a while, but I think you were saying that someone is going to get involved with the building of the university approved accommodation. I actually think that's a really sensible move these days. What I found was interesting when I was looking at Plymouth population figures is that there's a projected drop in the number of people between the ages of 20 and 24 over the next sort of 10 to 15 years. and it's strange because the population itself is set to grow, but the age groups that are growing are the 30s, which is sort of, you're established on the young families,
Yes.
over 55, which are the retires, and the number of children as well, whereas the 20 to 24 group, the young professional market, I guess, and the young workers, and the middle-aged, 45 to 54, they're dropping. So, I mean, that's bound to affect the demand for housing, isn't it?
Well, definitely. I mean, I didn't know that statistic, and perhaps I should sort of, maybe I should change one of my strategies and maybe do more buy to flips. In that, if that's going to actually, if I can, maybe create, 2-bedroom flats for the first-time buyers or something, or like you say, kind of like buy houses and actually flip them into nice family homes. Maybe that's the way to go. But I think there's still. There's always, it's still a naval town, it's still a student town. I heard somewhere that I think the population is something like 250,000, of which 10% are Polish. So that's a huge, so I was completely shocked by that. So there's obviously a demand there. People have to eat, people have to work, people have to live somewhere. So I think there'll always be a demand. But you're right, I think maybe the people who might suffer are the sort of, like you say, the sort of the kind of, if they're not premium student properties, then they may be the ones that suffer. But I don't know. What do you think, Stuart? And
Stuart,
I kind of agree with you. If they're not premium, then they're going to get. They're going to get, they're not going to fill them up, and obviously they're going to suffer voids, and they're going to have to spend some money on getting them up. And obviously then, if you don't fill them up for September, you've got a whole year to wait if you want to keep in that market until you can get more tenants in.
that's right.
So you most of the time they look at switching to either, NHA market or obviously, getting the place up to a good condition and letting it out to working, professional lets.
Yeah.
Do you think that
in
this will...
Plymouth there are distinct... Sorry, Al.
Sorry, Jane, I was just going to say, do you think this actually provides an opportunity for investors at the moment looking to pick up bargains from, motivated student landlords, people whose property isn't let, either in the traditional, just buy it sense, or maybe one of the more creative strategies, the whole rent-to-rent thing or whatever, to take over these, what are fundamentally sound buildings but have lost their market? Do you think that, Stuart, do you think there's an opportunity at the moment to grab some bargains?
I think, I'm not sure. I don't really look at, what's on the market selling wise for estate agents at the moment. So I've not seen any distressed HMO landlords selling up, but I think there still might be a market. I think some other people in doing the rent-to-rent strategy have proved there is a market, isn't there, for distressed HMO landlords. To get in there, spend a couple of thousand, liquor paint, new furniture. It doesn't take a lot, to be honest.
No.
To turn a place round, but but people are just reluctant to do it.
Well, I wonder if also because the student sort of market is relatively passive as a landlord, isn't it? You can stick it with an agent and largely forget about it. Whereas if you are, having to actively go out and find a new market, maybe one which, there isn't such a traditional cycle of the students, you actually have to work a lot harder on that property to keep it full, maybe.
Yeah, that is the case. There's only a few agents that will look at that kind of working kind of doing HMOs like that for workers. So that could be like a barrier for someone doing it, really. So you might have a point there, Ant.
Yeah. Do you do it, Stuart, as a letting agent? Is it something you've done before in the past, or?
It's something that we do, and obviously I have my own properties which are being converted back. Some of them being converted back from like a normal residential family let to shared rooms to work in, and I've got a couple of NHA properties as well in the Keyham area near the dockyard. So yeah, so we do that for our landlords, and I know there's another couple of agents that do that as well.
Okay. Can we talk about the LHA market actually? Because my properties are all rented to the LHA market, to tenants in receipt of local housing allowance, and I guess that's for a couple of reasons, really. Maybe it's partly the types of properties that I've got appeal to that market, although I think, Chrissy, you've seen, mine, they're actually pretty nice places, aren't they? Sort of 1 and 2 bed flats.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, very much so.
I just think they tend to stay longer term. The LHA tenants seem to sort of stick there and not move on, really. Not in the same way that a young professional couple might, grow and adapt, or get a new job, or pay rise, or split up, or get married, or whatever. Something's going to change. My LHA tenants, that doesn't seem to happen so much for. They seem to sort of stay longer. And the returns are pretty good, aren't they? I mean, Chrissy actually was kind enough to go and take a look at a place I bought earlier this year in, I'm trying to remember what the area is called. Is it? It
was PL5, that's
PL5,
all I remember.
yeah.
But I can't remember
the sort of top end of the bridge. Is it St Budo? Have I got that right? I can't remember.
St Budo, yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay. And it was a new build flat 7 years ago, 2-bed place. I paid 55,000 for, and the guy I bought it off paid 107 when he bought it. Or it might have been 104, I'm not entirely sure. Now the market has obviously taken an absolute hammering there, but the property rents for 525 quid a month, and if it wasn't for those damn service charges, I'd be making loads of money on it a month. But the service charges are pretty astronomical with some of these sort of outsourced management agents, aren't they? It's sort of 80, 90 quid a month or something like that. So it's I'm making a couple hundred quid a month profit rather than sort of 300, which I hate. So Stuart, do you let to the sort of LHA market, or?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, I would say about a third of my portfolio is let out to LHA. I mean, I just look at it obviously on an individual basis, per like a property. What am I going to get my best return on? So I've got a couple of properties in St Budo, properties somewhere else, and they kind of lend themselves to that LHA market. Especially like 4-bedroom houses. I think the prices have gone up slightly now, but you used to be able to pick up a 4-bedroom house, ex-local authority, for in the region of 100 and 110, and then before the LHA cuts, you could get 850 a month. It's 775 now, so that was well above like an 8% yield on a single let, which is not bad for the south, really.
No, very good, very good. And I've really, I mean, one of the reasons I sort of started buying in Plymouth was that I knew the city a bit from having been a student there, but as a student you don't really know any city particularly well. The student bits, but it was purely a numbers game. My own purchases for sort of 1 and 2 beds have been around the sort of 50,000 mark, and with not a huge amount to spend on them, and they do. I think probably the LHA rate is about £400 a month for a 1-bed, isn't it? Roughly.
It's 400 for a 1-bed, 525 for a 2, 600 for a 3, and 775 for a 4-bed, and then it's 300 a month for a room.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next sort of opportunity that I'm looking at in terms of the buy-to-let side of things, because I know, Chrissy, you're looking at more buy-to-sell projects now. For me, is because I hate those service charges so much. I hate how much they eat into my profit, looking at buildings where there's perhaps 4 or 6 flats in them where I can buy the freehold, maybe even because they can be a little trickier to finance, as I understand, but because of it you get a bit of a sort of job lock deal in that the cost of all of them is less than they would be worth as individual places, and do away with the sort of £90 per month service charge on each flat, and increase your profits by sort of 400 or 500 quid a month on a building. So if anybody sees any of those down there, that's kind of what I'm after. I was interested, Stuart, you said about the market, and I think how things really have changed quite a lot. When I compare it to Weston-super-Mare, where I own some other properties, there it's still fairly stagnant. And in Plymouth, I see more and more sold notices going up on Rightmove, and the flats that were coming on at sort of 50 grand are now coming on at 60 grand, or, there is a shift in the market, I think.
I think so. I mean, when people come to me as a letting agent, what should I invest in? I often used to say 4-bed NHA properties, because of that kind of yield. Well, that's when you could get them. They were on the market. There would always be 3 or 4 around the 110,000 mark. But if you look on Rightmove now, the cheapest 4-bed is about 130. So, there has been a little bit of a recovery, I think, for the market in general.
Yeah, I think I've definitely noticed that as well, even just in the last 3 or 4 months. Stuff that I'm looking at one day, the next minute it's sold subject to contract, and it's something that I probably would have liked to have looked at. So I think there's definitely a recovery there.
I own Chris, you had a look at one of my places a while back. I owned the ground floor flat, and the top flat came up for sale, and I'd paid, admittedly it was in very poor state of repair at the time. I paid sort of 52,000, and it needed work on it. And then the upstairs one came for sale, and I thought, well, great, that'd be fantastic, because there's only 2 in the building, I'll own the building. And so I spoke to the owner and sort of, I knew I'd have to pay more than I did the downstairs one because hers was in good condition. So I sort of tentatively said, well, I think I could maybe go to 60,000. And she sold it for 82. I was utterly gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it. That's, I guess, like 3 years ago, something like that. The market really has changed. And I got a good deal, but it was very interesting just to see that she was achieving that kind of premium price for a 1-bed on Embankment Road.
Wow. Yep, I remember. Yep.
So, Chrissy, do you think this provides some opportunities for you? Because your background really in the last few years has been building for other people, developing for other people as well as for yourself. So do you see more opportunities now than you did, say, 3 years ago for flips or development projects?
Well, I think for me personally, I mean, the thing I think I'm going to be starting looking for is definitely buy to flip. Possibly some of my properties actually put proper leasehold, the ones that I've split into flats, actually put proper leases on them, and possibly sell a couple and leave one in situ, something like that, but obviously be the freeholder, that kind of thing, just to sort of make some money so that I can actually, invest in more properties. So that's the sort of thing I'm going to be sort of trying to do. So I'm going to try and sort of do, someone told me the 3-2-1 rule, buy 3, flip 2, keep 1. That's what I'm going to try and do.
Right. Okay, great. And I always think it's...
and it's nothing to do with Dusty Bin.
I don't know how you did that.
Exactly. I don't think I did. I think yes, quite.
I don't know what you do. Stop putting those 2 fingers up at me. I always think it's nice to sort of talk more generally about a city as well, about, if people are coming down there, what can they expect? And I know when we did this before, Jane, I was giving the example of a guy I know who was, very nice, very sort of middle class young lad, and he'd been told he should go and invest in this certain area in Bristol that, I wouldn't leave my car parked there. It's pretty rough. And this guy, I'm sure he won't mind, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but this guy Sebastian was told to go to this area and sort of, go around knocking on the doors and that, and there he was with this sort of shirt and tie and briefcase and stuff like that going around an area. And I think it's always best to go a bit forewarned of what a place is really like. I think Plymouth has some really amazing things going for it, actually. I think architecturally, the buildings are great. They afford a lot of opportunity for development and adding value. They come with their own problems of working on 100-plus-year-old houses, don't they, with the damp and that sort of thing. I love all the seafront. I love the Barbican, the Hoe, all that area. If you go there for the day, it's fantastic. But do you think it would be fair to say that Plymouth isn't necessarily the most cosmopolitan city? I compare it to Bristol, where, I lived for quite a few years. Bristol's very modern, very forward-thinking, very eco, and hugely sort of varied and diverse in terms of population. Whenever I'm in Plymouth, I never really get that feeling. Am I being unfair to the city, or?
Well, Stuart, if you're a Plymothian, you have to answer that.
I'm not actually a Plymothian, actually. No, I was born in Portsmouth, brought up in Cornwall, so I came here a bit like you, Ant. I came, I think I must have graduated a year before you, so I graduated from university in '97.
Yeah, well, you do look older, Stuart, yeah. I kind of stayed in the city afterwards because there wasn't obviously much employment down in Cornwall, so I managed to get I actually got a job in Exeter and commuted up for a while. But I mean, I think I kind of agree with you. There's parts of the city which which are lovely. They've done the Royal William Yard. We're getting some really top restaurants in there.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, lovely.
And obviously they're redeveloping Mill Bay as well now. There's going to be a new marina down there, and there's lots of other developments, so they're going to open that up towards the city. We're getting another new IMAX cinema complex up by the football ground. They're going to redevelop that area. Just had the planning passed this week or last week. So there's lots of exciting development projects coming up. And also you've got the area. You can be on Dartmoor within 20 minutes. You get to like the nice beaches in Cornwall, in Devon, within 20 minutes as well. So it is a good place to live, if you like the outdoors.
And if anyone was coming there and thinking, just thinking, okay, I can get on Rightmove, I can look at the numbers, this area looks cheap, I'll buy there because of that. There are areas in every town, every city, and every area where you kind of got to say, well, actually, this area does have its social problems, and it's best to be forewarned, is forearmed before you go in there. Are there any areas that sort of spring to mind for you where you think, maybe you might want to think twice about, trying to do high-end, HMO professional multi-lets in this area?
Got to be,
I think
north. Sorry, go on. Yep. Sorry, Stuart, go on.
No, you carry on.
Well, I was thinking North Prospect. Is that still a bad area, Swilly, around there?
I'm going to hold my hand up, and I've got 2 properties in North Prospect actually. So, one's about to get knocked down actually because they're regenerating what they determinedly called North Prospect Swilly. That's its affectionate name in Plymouth. But they're doing a lot of regeneration work there, basically because the housing stock they built isn't very good, and they're knocking it down and building a lot more. So one of those is getting knocked down, selling it to the community, Plymouth Community Homes, and I've got another one in North Prospect. But I don't really have. I mean, you've got to go to the LHA market, but it's still quite. I'm paying 65 for a 3-bedroom house. Which I paid about 60 grand for, I think, a long time ago. So, so there's probably, you're not going to do a high-end HMO there, but if you can get a property at the right area, I mean, there's a few streets I wouldn't touch in North Prospect, but there are other streets which are okay.
But again, you got to be there. You got to understand the local area, though, haven't you?
Yeah. There's not really any. In North Prospect, it's probably the worst, and after that, you've probably got Barton, which is probably pretty bad. But apart from that, there's no really places where I'd say, you shouldn't invest. But obviously, HMOs, then you probably want to be centralish. The boundaries are probably like Stoke, Peveril. As far as you can go for a HMO, really.
Yeah, I was going to say on the LHA market, I think sometimes people who are coming into this new can be a little dismissive about it, or very cynical about the LHA market. And I've got the first place I bought on Embankment Road, which I think was about 60 5.5, 6 years ago, Chrissy, that you went and sort of refreshed that one for me. I've never been back to it. Yeah. I've never had a void period in 6 years there. I think I had one change of tenants in that time. It can be a great market, and Jane's been very quiet on this call because she doesn't necessarily have properties in Plymouth, but she has some amazing LHA strategies herself that, I think they could work brilliantly in a town like Plymouth. Can you just sort of tell the guys about that, Jane?
Well, basically, what we've got is certain councils in South Wales, one of which is Swansea, another is Neathport Talbot, where you have two individual tenants. You can put them into a 3-bedroom house, and as long as they have 2 rooms for their own use, they can then share a kitchen and share a bathroom, and they are then entitled to the 1-bedroom flat rate. So you actually make more from 2 people in a single house. So instead of being entitled to the shared house rate, or the shared room rate, they then are entitled to the 1-bedroom flat rate. And as long as you've got the layout right in the house, it actually works quite well. And I did wonder if that was something that is that Plymouth Council do as well.
I don't know, because I don't have any HA properties. That's to Stuart.
Well, maybe that's something that we need to look into. It's definite opportunity there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done anything like that myself. I'm obviously aware of that kind of strategy, but I've never done anything like that myself. So I don't know what Plymouth's reaction will be.
Well, let's get Jane. Let's just get Jane to tell us the numbers on her place, because it did increase the profitability fairly dramatically, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Basically, we had it let to, just as a straightforward LHA property, it's a 3-bedroom, sort of link detached. And we were letting it out for, I think it was just over £500 a month. But now that we've got effectively 2 sharers in there, both claiming the LHA rate, it comes in at just over £800 a month. So we're actually £300 a month better off. Than we were sort of 3 months ago. So it does make a big difference.
So the 2 rooms for their own use would include their bedroom plus one other?
Yes, a bedroom. Basically, they have to have a bedroom and a living room. But what we have each, yeah.
Right, and obviously the other can't, use that exclusive use, basically, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and it depends. What a lot of people have found is a way for making this work really well is if you get 2 people who know each other, then there's less likely to be sort of issues between who does what. Yeah. And we've been fortunate, and we have got 2 people who know each other. It's still fairly early days, but it's something that quite a few landlords are actually doing in this area now. And the council also, because there's a shortage of housing for this particular group. It's the over 35s. And because there's a shortage of housing, I mean, the councils are very, very keen to work with us on it.
And did they do the application separately or jointly for the actual housing benefit?
I believe they are done separately. We actually we've let ours through an agent who focuses specifically on this strategy, and they put the applications in separately.
Right.
Again, what somebody said in our last sort of roundtable meeting is that it can depend on the caseworker, and if the caseworker is not as familiar with the scheme or the system, that can actually take a bit longer for it to go through. But as long as you keep working with them, then you kind of get there in the end.
I think it sounds like a very good strategy, definitely.
Yeah, it's riskier because you get a deposit,
Yes.
Because they're classed as vulnerable. But, it's higher risk, higher reward, basically. And it certainly is worth considering for an experienced landlord in an area where there's high LHA demand. But I don't know what Plymouth is like. Is there a high, a strong benefits culture or a high LHA demand?
I've always dealt with students and professionals, so I can't comment. I mean, Ant will probably know more about that.
All I can say there is I've never had a void period on any of my properties, which would indicate that, there's a market there. My agent has sort of said to me that more recently they didn't really have a lot of demand for 2-bed flats, but lots for 1-bed, which I find really strange.
Bizarre.
And annoying because, 2-beds are a lot more profitable than 1-beds, or, buying a 1-bed and converting it to a 2-bed is even better. Now, whether or not, that's actually the case, I really believe that on the private market, there's a lot more demand for 2-beds than there are 1-beds. I think it's a lot easier to rent a 2 than a 1-bed, but the market is...
I wonder if that situation will actually change, because if there's going to be a shift... So I've got feedback. You guys okay? I've got feedback going on.
Yeah, no, we can hear you fine. Are we disintegrating?
Okay, right.
Is our call disintegrating a bit? We lost Stuart a few minutes ago, so just to sort of finally, I wanted to sort of pick up on one of the projects you were saying about, earlier on when we were offline, Chrissy, and that was, a kind of opportunity that you saw this in the last week or so, because they are out there, aren't they? And this was for a sort of, a relatively light development or refurb. Can you just talk us through that one?
Are we talking about the 5-bedroom place, or is that the one that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So this was a 5-bedroom place in Stoke, and yes, it probably needed sort of another bathroom put in, probably replastering, replumbing, and kind of it was a lovely period property that hadn't really been mucked about with. Obviously someone had sort of lived there for many years, so you could actually see the property in its true glory, warts and all, but at least it wasn't hidden, so you could see that there wasn't really that much wrong with it apart from actually former beauty. And
okay, so we kind of got interrupted a bit there and everybody disappeared. I don't know if you all went to make a cup of tea or what happened, but I was left on my own for a minute. So, but hopefully this will appear seamless as we get it back up and running. So, Chrissy, you were just about to talk through with us a project that you were looking at, or an opportunity which, maybe helps sort of illustrate that, there really are deals out there to be had. So can you just talk us through that?
Yeah, there are deals to be had. I saw a property in Stoke, a 5-bedroom place, which was obviously, very grand in its day. It's still got all the original features, but obviously someone had lived there for a very long time, possibly a probate, not sure. And I could probably pick that up for 140, 60, something like that. Again, because there wasn't it wasn't hid, nothing was hidden, so I could see, the cracks, the warts, the damp, the lot, but it wasn't, it wasn't the end of the world. It was actually sort of reasonably easy fix, nothing drastic. And I know that property prices in that road go for 280. So, if I could do it up for 40, 50,000, that's an £80,000 profit for me, which is pretty juicy. So there are deals out there. There are on smaller scales, on larger scales, but they are out there. Maybe not as many as there used to be, but there's still definitely, properties. And I think the trick in Plymouth possibly is especially with the, with the properties in the student areas, is maybe actually to start chopping them up into flats, getting leaseholds, sorting out the leaseholds, and selling them on if people want, if tired landlords want to do that. But yeah, there are opportunities. The yields are good, even for renting. The yields are good. I typically get between sort of 10 and 13, 14%, which is reasonable, I think. And yeah, there is stuff out there. There is a lot of stuff out there. There's auctions that can be gone to. And in terms of Plymouth as a city, I've sort of been going to the city for the last 25 years, and I've seen an awful lot of changes, and it is actually turning into more of an international cosmopolitan place. I mean, last week I was there and they had the Fastnet race around the Rock. They had the British National firework display. The King William Yard is obviously really attracting a lot of yachties with nice fancy yachts. Plymouth Princess yachts are obviously built there, so there is a lot happening, and I've definitely seen a change for the better. And there is an opportunity. It is exciting, but I mean, as everything goes in peaks and troughs, and you've just got to know when to hit the peak or the trough to be able to actually, kind of utilise that.
Okay, brilliant. Now, Chrissy, I know that you're kind of open to potentially people getting in contact with you if they were looking to partner with somebody who knew the city well, had your kind of experience in terms of the building side of things, and maybe with a view to working together on some projects. So, what's the best way to sort of contact you if that's what if that's what someone was interested in doing?
Yeah, email or mobile phone, which you've got. So yeah, not a problem.
Okay, can you give us your email now?
Yes, sorry. Yes, of course I can.
I've got it, but
Christina. Christina K. So it's Christina K 123 at hotmail.com.
Okay, that's brilliant. Now, we lost Stuart earlier on in the call, and I haven't been able to retrieve him, which is a real shame because, I think he knows the city well. He's there all the time. He's a letting agent, so his experience is invaluable. So, what I'm going to do is, I just need to pull it up actually. I'm going to get his email address up as well. So if anybody's, potentially interested in sort of, having a look around the city, they want a friendly letting agent in the area, then they can make contact with him. So I'm just going to bring that up now. So his email is Stuart, that's Stuart at the-property-group.co.uk. If anyone wants to email me, I'll try and help out if I possibly can, and that's at yourpropertynetwork.co.uk. And one more thing, I did say that I've been lucky enough to go and stay at Christina's absolutely fabulous sort of holiday house down there, and I can hardly recommend it. So if anybody was to Google Harbourside House in Kreml, yeah, is that right?
Yeah, although I actually did it through an agent. Well, I am still doing it through an agent up until December, but as from January, I've almost set up a website, so it's little old me. So you can look at Harbourside House to see how beautiful it is, but you can contact me for future bookings, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you for the plug, by the way.
It is absolutely stunning in its own sort of harbour. So there's not many places that you can that you can stay, and probably one of the most relaxing places that I've spent some time.
Thank you.
Okay, well, look, again, we conquered the technological challenges, I think. So I think we were, YPN1 technology none. Sort of. Maybe it was a draw. Maybe it was a draw. So I'm going to leave you two to get on with it now, because I'm going to be taking my kids swimming in an outdoor pool in a minute. So thank you to everyone who is listening into this.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
All right. Nice to see you, Jane. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, cool. So we recorded it. It's obviously in 2 bits, which I'll have to see if I can figure out how to splice together. What did you think? Did we cover enough in that, or?
I think so. I possibly wouldn't have minded going more into the development, because according to the Plymouth City Council website, there's a real shortage of housing, which is being addressed. They've got a plan to address it over the next 13, 14 years. But I don't know if that's worth a mention. Think it is?
Yeah, we can put it in the article, can't we? And then as a sort of, maybe this is also an opportunity for the private, investor and developer to be providing housing for this market. So, okay, I'm just going to add Stuart in. Stuart's just coming back in, so I'll just explain to him. Stuart, you there? Hi, Stuart, can you hear me? Okay. Jane, I'll come back to you in 1 sec, okay?